Welcome, everybody, back for another Seminole Sidelines. Florida State, they continue to win games, now 7-3 on the year. They knock off Syracuse 38-3. We have an action-packed show for you this evening, live again on YouTube. Appreciate you, those of you guys joining us. Please ask questions and let us know what you think of our show. And comment, because the Noles, they are rolling on. Pat Burnham, Aria Masudi joining you here. We've got a couple of guests that'll join us here this evening. Kez McCorvey, Mark Salva, as we have every week. And look, man, the Noles, they continue to find ways to win ball games 3 in a row.
Well, and they're rolling. They're just not winning them. They're rolling people right now. And again, improved to 7-3 in the year. Guaranteed the first winning regular season since 2016, which is hard to fathom. When I did the research, I didn't realize. I figured it was somewhat shorter than that. And we'll get into a little bit about the significance of that later in the season. But yes, as Mark and I talked last night, you could throw a source out. It was dominant. It was efficient. It was complimentary. It was consistent. It was opportunistic. They dominated Syracuse from start to finish.
They did. And offensively, they got out to a fast start, a theme that the Noles have had the last 3 games. They've started to find different ways to be able to jump out on teams and make sure that you're kind of killing their will, right, early on. And so you got to give the Noles credit for that.
Well, certainly you can make the argument that this game was not over till the end of the third quarter, but more than likely this game, just like the week before, was over with a last drive of the second quarter that led to a field goal and a 3-score lead. This game was over at that point for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think we should go ahead and bring in our guests to have them on the show here. Mark Salva, Florida State offensive lineman, and Kez McCorvey, Florida State wide receiver. 2 guys that instrumental in building this program. There it is, the shot from McCorvey. Mark Salva, can we get a go Noles to start this thing off?
Let's go Noles, baby.
Of course. There you go. It's got to feel good for you two, especially as former Noles who blood, sweat, and tears to make this program great. Obviously, you know, the Noles had a national title in 2013. Things have kind of dipped off in the last few years, but we were also hopeful that Mike Norvell could get these Noles back to the top. I think we're starting to see the foundation being built of a Florida State team that can become a powerhouse.
Yeah, I think, you know, all we ever wanted was for them, in them being FSU and the players, is to play hard, compete, and, you know, try to just play it at a high level, you know. And obviously they're doing that. Even better than that, it seems to me that a light has come on. Sometime after the open date, it looks like something's, you know, that switch just kind of turned on. Their mindset has changed. You've heard them talk about wanting not just to go out and perform well, but to go out and dominate. And that message seems to have resonated throughout the team. And you can see it, and it's evidenced by the fast starts we've had the last 3 weeks.
And Mark and Kez, I do want to get into that 7th win as we get a little bit deeper into the show, but I do want to jump into this Syracuse game right away. The 3rd game in a row that Florida State has really just come out on fire, dominated its opponents, and I do want to break it down into defense and offense and special teams, but just what was your biggest takeaway from the game last night? And Kez, I'll start with you.
Well, the biggest takeaway I would say is this right here is just momentum. You know, and the defense looked like they were playing great. Okay, and so I think that's where it starts with us right now. I think we have the basic fundamental building blocks of a great team, which is really good defense, guys running to the ball, guys hitting the ball, guys, you know, putting pressure on the quarterback, and then on offense running the ball. And so I think that's where it starts. Okay, if you can run the ball and then you play great defense, you have a chance to win almost every game. And so that's where we are right now. We're in a position to be successful. And so I think as we continue to hone and refine our game plan and what the guys are comfortable with and what they're capable of doing, I think we're on the upside. We're on the upside.
And Mark, same question to you. Just your biggest takeaway from the 3rd win in a row by Florida State in dominating fashion.
Just the level that they're playing, in the execution level that they're consistently doing these last 3 games. Not a lot of mistakes, not a lot of alignment mistakes, you know, getting right, you know, correct assignments, not a lot of penalties, just a real solid fundamental performance these last 3 weeks. And, you know, and then the emergence of some difference makers. Trey Benson, obviously Jared Verse. We've known they've had potential and they've been pretty good for most of the year, but they're really emerging as true difference makers in the program. Of course, Jordan Travis performing at a very, very high level. To me, the continued growth overall of the team, but these guys emerging as really elite players in our league.
Yeah, and listen, we have a tendency the last couple of shows to start with the offense, and really, the defense has been really dominant. 348 combined yards given up its last 2 games, 3 points both to Miami and Syracuse. Listen, it was the same song, different verse, pun intended, on Saturday night. Syracuse 160 total yards, 65 passing, 95 rushing. Mark, FSU knew it had to shut down Aronde Gadsden, Sean Tucker, and Garrett Schrader. Schrader and Tucker had accumulated 82% of their rush yards. Tucker and Gadsden, 50% of their pass yards and receptions. They had to shut those guys down. They did. What did that FSU do that gave those 3 guys and Dino Babers' offense so many issues?
Well, going into the game, I think we all said the key was going to be, if Schrader plays, which I think we all pretty much knew he was going to play. If he plays, to make him feel uncomfortable early and often and really test that wheel that was hurt and just see kind of where he is, because he hasn't played in like 3 weeks, right? So what stuck out to me was the very first passing situation. We bring a 7-man blitz and Pat Payton comes running free and nails the ever-living whatever out of him and gets a sack right there that first series. And that's kind of sent a message early on that if you're not on your A game, we're gonna be coming after you. So, that was the first thing. The other thing was, schematic wise, I don't think they really did anything, kind of crazy. I think basically they just played the scheme at a very high level. You saw guys getting off blocks. You saw everybody playing their assignments really well. I think they were just hyper alert about obviously they knew that Tucker likes to cut it back and bounce balls. And every time he did, there were guys waiting there. I think of Renardo Green on that first big cutback, making the play. I think of, him being chased down by Akeem Dent and Akeem Dent making some plays. So I don't think we did anything schematic-wise. I think guys just played their fundamentals really well, and I think we hustled to the ball. I think we made Schrader uncomfortable early. Gadsden wasn't a factor at all because Schrader, number one, didn't have time to throw. Number two, his throws were way off anyways. So he obviously showed that he hasn't practiced very much, and even when he did, it probably wasn't a whole lot of reps, right? So, and that kind of manifested itself in the game in the way he kind of threw the ball. So, again, nothing really schematic-wise, but just guys, a group playing team defense, rallying to the ball, getting off blocks, good gap discipline, good alignment. I mean, I didn't see anything really crazy. Now, consider the fact also I'm watching a TV copy on the TV. I couldn't really see, all 11 every time. But just from what I could see, that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, when you look at the wide receiving corps, too, for Syracuse, I mean, coming into the season, Syracuse and that win streak that they put together, 6-0 on the year. Kez, I mean, they had an offense that was really working. Obviously, Schrader gets hurt. He doesn't seem like he's the same player when he comes back from it. But what was Florida State doing defensively, scheme-wise, to make Gadsden's life miserable, to make Sean Tucker, who had been a factor in the passing game, too, miserable, because the Noles really shut down that aspect of the night, the offense for Syracuse on the night?
Well, yeah, you know what I think what really happened was they made them one-dimensional, and so they got behind the sticks early. They tried to run the ball a little bit, and then they were not able to do so. And then to be in third down, when you can dictate, what kind of defense you're going to have and the different rushes and the different opportunities. Florida State was always a step ahead in the whole game. Okay, they were ahead on the sticks. They were ahead on, and then when your offense is running the ball and holding the ball too as well, that makes it easier for you on the defensive side of the ball too to be able to to call plays and to dictate the game as well, because you can be patient. You don't have to make plays. And then I thought that the DBs did a really good job. When you watched the Wake Forest game, right? You watched the plays that Wake Forest made on us when the ball was in the air and our hand was just maybe an inch or two higher. We could have made that play. This game, we were making that play. The back shoulder throws that they were making over there, they were throwing over there. We were making those plays to get those guys off the field now, as opposed to earlier in the season. So I see a little bit of confidence. All right. We were ahead of the sticks. We stopped the run, which made them one-dimensional, and then we had confidence on the outside to be able to prevent them from having those big plays. And because we played press man, right? We had one-on-one opportunities to make some plays, but they didn't make them. And so I see confidence, I see momentum, I see your defense run to the ball. That's what I see. And I see, again, the discipline of guys standing in their gaps and not making mistakes. Okay. There's a level of trust on the defense side of the ball that I hadn't seen all year. A level of trust. The last couple of games, you've seen a level of trust for guys to make the plays that they're supposed to make across the board on defense. And so that's what I'm seeing. And I like it. I like it.
I think a lot of people
I'll tell you
do,
another
Kez.
factor. I'll tell you another factor too is, now that we're healthy, the rotation we're able to get and the personnel. Number one, we had probably 6 3-and-outs, right? And then we're substituting pretty liberally up front, and guys are playing fresh, so they're able to play with that high energy, that high level, that high motor, because they're getting good rest. I mean, I don't think Lovett and Cooper played after the first or second series of the second half. So just resting those guys and keeping them healthy. That's a huge factor.
It is. It's great.
Yeah, and Mark, I got 2 questions for you. A, there was some symmetry last night in that Jared Verse led the team in tackles, sacks, and tackles for loss. It was a little bit over a year ago that a unnamed defensive analyst discovered Verse on tape and led to obviously him coming to Florida State. And then just what you said, we thought FSU's defense might be dominant up front coming into the season. They did not start out the season as a dominant defensive front, but we have seen huge plays by Farmer, Payton, Warner, and then get Lovett back in a healthy Verse. Just talk a little bit about, is Jared Verse better than we thought? He continues to have a big impact in every game. We did not think he could be as good as Jermaine Johnson. It looks though as he is. And then, of course, just talk a little bit about the continued development of those other players.
Yeah, well, Verse first, right? And,
Yep.
We all went in, everybody went in saying, well, let's not put the pressure on him to be another Jermaine Johnson. That's not fair. First round draft pick, defensive ends are a rare commodity. Lightning, no way, Lightning's going to twice, right? We're going to get 2 first round draft pick defensive ends in the transfer portal in consecutive years. Who could hope for that? Well, I'll tell you what, Jared Verse is a first round talent. Obviously, I think I saw Pro Football Focus had him the number 8 overall pick and the number 2 or 3 defensive end, something like that right now. I mean, and I'm sure the more productive he gets, the more of that kind of thing we're going to start hearing about him. And here's the thing: the guy is all he's all ability, he's all speed and raw power right now.
Right. When
he starts to really learn his craft, and he's learning, he's getting better every week, but he's far from a refined finished product, and that's the thing I think that a lot of people see right now, because right now it's all just raw ability. So that's scary when you really think about it. So you have that on the edge, and then you got the other guys. Look, when Fabian Levitt went out, who knew the impact that was going to have on this defense? I mean, that would turn out to be a huge impact, and of course Verse getting out too after Louisville. So obviously, those guys are elite players, and it was just the cascading and domino effect of losing those 2 guys, and then you have guys who might not quite ready for prime time, and then having to play an extraordinary amount of snaps. And of course, when you get tired, that's when all the fundamentals go out the window, right? And so you just kind of saw the result of that during that 3-game losing streak. That's kind of what you saw. You saw guys like Jarrett Jackson and Malcolm Ray and even Cooper and Farmer. I mean, they played hard. But as they got worn down, it just became a little bit too much to overcome. And just bringing Lovett back and Verse back just has brought the level of play overall up. And don't underestimate their leadership impact, but just the cascading effect again of guys playing more and more fresh, right? So they're doing fine. Those younger guys are doing fine. It's just having the ability to not have to take every snap is huge.
Can we shout out, by the way, Jared Verse last night? I don't know if you guys stayed and watched the huddle after the game where the ACC Network had some of the guys come on the desk and Coach Norvell, but Verse kind of gave us some insight into a conversation he had with Jermaine Johnson when they left. Jermaine went to the NFL and was a fellow transfer, and he said, look, you're not going to be Jermaine Johnson. That's not going to happen. You need to be Jared Verse, and you need to be the same positive kid that you've always been, and that I'm so impressed with and you just got to learn to be yourself. And so Verse comes into the season, all of a sudden, no pressure on him. He's performing at a high level. And now all he's doing is he's got Florida State maybe as a defensive end transfer you, if you want to call it that.
I guarantee you there are a lot of defensive ends at colleges right now that are saying, hey, maybe I ought to finish my career at Florida State. And listen, we'll get into this as we get more into recruiting towards the end of the year, but the transfer portal is going to be a big piece of the puzzle. And you're successful in the transfer portal at a certain position, particularly like Florida State, and there's a good chance that Jared Verse is going to be a first-round pick when other players from other schools see this. It's a big deal. And listen, I similarly made the joke, it was kind of tongue in cheek on Syracuse radio on Friday that we wondered if Jared Verse was going to be as good as Jermaine Johnson. Now I just wonder if Jermaine Johnson is going to be as good as Jared Verse. So
yeah, and it's interesting to me, and I guess I'm curious just as a younger fan of the game, of college football. You guys all three of you have been around the game. You've coached at that level. Mark's coached at that level. Kez has, and those two obviously have played at that level. How has the transfer portal become different for teams all across the country? And are you impressed at the hit rate that Florida State's had with the transfers succeeding? And not to be, no pun intended, but transferring to FSU and the talent transfer.
Well, yes, they've done a great job. I don't know if they could continue to hit at that rate, but I'll let these guys handle that question.
Well, you know what? You're right. I think it's very. But I say this about the transfer portal is if there's an advantage in that of getting guys that have already been in college before and have already gone through the process. You can talk to other coaches and other people if they played it in the season. Guess what? You can watch their college film, and so you can tell how they stack up against college level athletes. Okay, and so that's one of the big parts. Okay, even in practice, right? If you get practice film and you watch him in practice, you know how good the team that he's playing on and those guys that he practices against are, and so you can tell. Okay, if this guy is good or have the skills to be able to do the things that you're going to ask him to do. And so a lot of times, really, it's easier in that transfer portal than it is as far as picking a guy off the street or off of a college. I mean, out of a high school, out of a high school. And so I think that the dynamics of recruiting is going to change and has changed a lot now that the transfer portal has arrived. I mean, I talked to a lot of my friends that are still coaching and whatnot, and they say that the transfer portal, man, that's the thing. That's the thing. They got people that are dedicated just to look on that transfer portal to be able to, recruit those guys when the time at the right time, but then to be able to evaluate them to see if they can fit within the context of what you're trying to do and have the skill sets. And so I just think it's going to be important. Transfer portal is important. It's important to us. We got a bunch of good football players in the portal. And I think we'll continue to do that too as well, because I think we got good guys that are evaluating and looking for those talented guys at those lower colleges that want to move up or transition over.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be junior college was the quick fix if you had an emergent problem on your roster. And so really that's all junior college recruiting was is just another form of the transfer portal, right?
Right.
And so now everything that Kez said is true. And the only thing about that has shifted with high school recruiting now is you've got to be really sure about the kind of kid you're getting out of high school, or else the question is always going to be in the back of your mind, am I grooming this guy just for him to transfer out of here and go somewhere else? And so there's kind of plays out, because we've had a lot of kids leave, that Mike has recruited. We've obviously turned over the roster using the transfer portal. I bet Miami probably is going to try to do a similar thing, try to turn over their roster the same way. When you're in the building stages in these programs trying to change cultures and rebuild, the transfer portal is the best way. For everything that Kez said, you have a known commodity when you go in the transfer portal. But one of the biggest things about high school kids, you don't know how they're going to respond when they leave home. They get off on their own for the first time. You try to do the best job you can, but you really don't know. At least with a transfer portal kid, there's probably enough information out there. You know exactly what you're getting. You know their practice habits. You know how dedicated to the game they are. You understand how they handle, the independence of being in school and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, the transfer portal has turned out to be a boon, especially for us. I think the key as with anything, is the ability to evaluate the talent that's coming out of there. And so far, like you said, we've hit at a high rate, and that's a great testament to the people looking at the personnel department, looking at the kids and picking the right guys that fit your program.
Let me say this right here too, because I think one of the things that we have in the event, Mike has such a great culture creator over there at Florida State right now, to where, usually the concern you have is when you bring guys from different programs, they bring their culture with them. And then sometimes their culture, the culture that they had, or if your guys transferring, right, they usually, it's some reason why they transferred. And so, okay, when you bring that to your culture right here, into your team, some of that seeps off, some of that goes off, and that gets into your culture too as well. But Mike has done a great job of indoctrinating and getting the guys to buy into the culture that's currently there. And so I think for us, it's an advantage. For other people, it may not be such an advantage, but for us, it's an advantage because we have such a strong culture now, all right, that you see over the team, that it cancels out some of the negative things that would bring. And so I think we just definitely have a great advantage in that whole transfer portal process because of our culture, and that those kids can come in and just become new. I'm a new guy, I'm a new player, so I think that's an advantage for us.
Well, listen, you would think they'd be able to have more success now that they can sell that they are definitively headed in the right direction, going to bowl games, having winning seasons. They still got to make the right decisions, find the right fits, but certainly their profile for the higher end transfer has certainly increased, and they could benefit from that as well.
I think that's a good point from all three, and really good insight. I think too, we talk about transfers, and last night Greedy Vance, a transfer gets a big interception there in the game as well. But when we look at that secondary, a question for Kez and Mark, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts too. The talent and the potential in the secondary has been there. They've added some guys, yes, but have you seen any big differences from last year to this year? Is it scheme? Is it coaching? What have you been seeing, and who are some guys in that secondary that have stood out to you, not just against Cuse, but all season?
Yeah, well, you know what? I think part of it is because it's never just one spot that causes the pot to tip all the way over. It's usually a bunch of different things. I think it's offense and our ability to run the ball and control the ball. I think it's the defense line, the defensive front seven that has given us the ability to be able to stay in coverage defenses. Okay, it's one thing to play man-to-man all game and try to get pressure on the quarterback because your defensive ends can't rush. But when you got guys like Jared Burst and other guys that can rush the quarterback, guess what? Now you can sit back in zone and do that, right? And then also when you're getting guys in third and long too. And so we've done a pretty good job of that to be able to put the guys in optimal positions. Although, you saw in the game where you saw the growth of the guys, where we had some guys make some plays on press coverage. And I was happy to see that. I saw a fade over there. They threw it back shoulder, and he ended up knocking. I think it was a couple of them. The guys knocked it down. I don't know who it was. I think it was maybe
I think Renardo Green had one.
Yep. Yeah, but I saw them play in phase. Okay, they didn't panic. They didn't lose their mind. They were in phase, and then the guy threw his hands up. He threw his hands up too. Those are hard, right? Because most guys are trying to get over top to keep you from getting the big touchdown, and then to be able to play the back shoulder as well. That's hard. Okay, but to see those guys relax in the pressure moments and then play through the hands, play through the eyes. I see you looking. I see your hands go up, playing through your hands. Great. So I think those guys, all those guys have improved, and I think this defensive front has given them the ability to have young guys improve. It's one thing to be thrown to the fire. Last year, them cats were thrown to the fire. This year, they are under the protection of that defensive line, which allows them to grow in confidence. And so, I'm not saying, hey, they're there yet, but they look good though. They look good, and I think they're going to continue to grow without having those hiccups of having to be out there on the island by yourself and put the game on your shoulders. So I think they're playing great. Ronaldo Green, Shaheem, and Sidney, man, I think they're playing great. I think they're moving in the right direction. They're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and you mentioned Sidney. It was nice to see him back. He had flashed a lot last year, did not play much earlier in the season, and he did flash a couple times against Syracuse. From being thrown in the fire to being absolutely on fire. That's a great segue into the FSU offense. Mark, for the last 3 years, every Sunday, we've had to begrudgingly talk about the offensive line. That has not been the case this year. For the fifth straight game, Florida State ran for 200-plus yards. It's not just the offensive line. It's Preston Daniel, Cam McDonald, Johnny Wilson, Ontario Wilson. I see everybody getting after it in the run game blocking. Just talk a little bit about how hard that your former offensive line coach, former offensive lineman. This is major college football. Talk about how hard it is to run for over 200 yards in one game, let alone 5 straight, and who has stood out to you besides everybody.
Yeah. You know, when you run the ball that effectively, it is a team thing. It's not any one position, although the offensive line is a big part of it. I'll tell you what, the thing that I've seen, and the only thing I've ever wanted to see going back 2 and 3 years, was to see great attitude and effort. You know, I could live with mistakes and technique and whatnot, but if I just want you to come off the ball and like get a hold of somebody and run your feet and try hard. And I think we're to the point now. Again, I've used this term a couple of times now. A light has come on. Right? I think a light has come on defense. A light has definitely come on offense. A light has come on in this running game. And, you know, what impresses me the most, especially last night, was guys would get on blocks, would press their feet and keep pressing on a guy. Because when you see Trey Benson break all those tackles, what you're kind of seeing too, if you look closely, you'll see somebody on a lineman or a linebacker continuing to run their feet, right? So when a guy's trying to separate, that's when you accelerate your feet, and that's when you get pancakes, you start burying guys. And that's when you get guys trying to separate to make tackles on backs and receivers. And, you know, and Kez knows this, receivers at Florida State University are expected to produce in the running game by blocking. And I think Micah Pittman is a bulldog, man. That guy, he's like an offensive lineman in a wide receiver body. That guy just gets after it, and Johnny Wilson gets after it. All the receivers are getting after it really well, you know. So that's the most improvement thing I've seen as far as improvement goes. I see our attitude, our effort. You know, we're executing the schemes really well too. But man, just the follow through and push on the after contact is the biggest difference I see.
Yeah, well, listen, it was an outstanding day for Jordan Travis, 17 of 18 to start the game, something like 22 of 20, 23 of 25, something like that. Amazing numbers. FSU completed 25 passes to 12 different receivers. We saw Malik McClain step up, had the most receiving number of receptions for. Ja'Kai Douglas continued to assert himself as a playmaker. Kez, just talk a little bit about the development of this, continued development of this wide receiver group, how frustrating it has to be for a defense not to know where the ball's going when it's thrown, and just your overall impressions, including the tight ends, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love 12 receivers catching ball. Now, for me personally, I want all the balls. But I
Spoken like a true receiver.
I know you better believe it. Hey, but you know what? This is the thing right here is I love the confidence that the coaches have in putting all the different guys in there. That builds depth. Okay, so injuries don't affect you as much. Okay, because you got depth. Okay, you got competition in the group that builds depth. Okay, I love that. I love what we did as far as the completion, and I think that's great. I think we need to do more of it, right? So we have some of those quick game passes. Okay, that prevents us from getting sacks, right? You get the ball at your hands quick. Guess what? Some screens, some quick game passing too as well. I love seeing that because I think that leads to us having to be able to take advantage of the whole field, because we've been notorious really just for throwing the ball down the field deep. Okay, and so we have it's showing the opportunity for us to be able to throw the ball short, let our guys yak the ball down the field and throw the ball deep. Okay, so it was great for me to be able to see those guys really step up their game as far as attacking different aspects of the field. And so I love that too. And then what I saw is this right here, because of the run game right there, you saw a lot of single high safety stuff. Okay, you saw a lot of man to man, and then seeing those guys being able to break tackles and make those long plays. You got single high man to man coverage. Okay, and then have our receivers. Our receivers are big and strong. Our receivers are big and strong and hard to tackle. All right, and then even the ones that are not big and strong, they're hard to tackle too. And so they're breaking a lot of tackles, and so we have a lot of different opportunities too as well. I love our offense. Our offense is a run, play action, pass offense. We run, we force you to change the construct of your defense, And then now we get one-on-one on the outside. We get a chance to have some play action passes. We can throw the ball short if we want to as well. All right. And then they got to tackle us. Okay. Now, one of the things I'm still hoping to work on is our third down and medium to long passing. Okay. Most of the passes that we completed were on first down and second down. Okay. And that's great when we can do that. But I want to get better and see what we can improve at on that third down, our third down package. But our guys really are playing their roles to a T. We got great outside receivers. We got great slot receivers that are really making plays. And I can't wait to see what they do for the rest of this year.
Absolutely. Guys, halfway point of the show, want to shout out some people on YouTube as well. But before we do that, we want to say thank you to our friends from Alumni Hall. Make sure you go and get your Seminole gear from Alumni Hall. Here's a word from our friends.
Alumni Hall, where you'll find officially licensed FSU gear for the entire family, including brands like Nike and Champion, plus great gifts for your favorite Seminole and home decor too. Miss some of the old Seminole throwback logos? Check out our College Vault collection. Shop online at alumnihall.com and let our great customer sales team ship to you within days, or pick up in store in Tallahassee. You'll find us in the Miracle Plaza Shopping Center on Thomasville Road. Students and military get 10% off in store. Alumni Hall.
All right, holiday time is just about upon us, a little over a month, and hope you guys go get your family and friends some gear from Alumni Hall as presents. Put them under the tree, and let's have a good time with it. The Noles are playing at a very high level. Shout out, by the way, to Matthew Ray, Gibbons, and the Pancake Platoon doing work. I know that makes Mark Salva smile. I like that, the Pancake Platoon. We can work with that, and of course, the Seminoles O-line continuing to play at a high level. I believe I saw the stat right. They've given up the fewest sacks in the ACC this season. Correct, so that's another step forward, not just run offense playing at a high level. They're doing a good job in pass pro, too. All right, talking more about the offense. Kez, I want to hear your thoughts on this first. We have a question, and then Mark, jump in right after that and transition into that. The question comes from Kim. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Kim Hyde. Is Jordan Travis a great quarterback or just a good quarterback?
Well, I think right now Jordan has great quarterback qualities, right? And so, I mean, this is the thing right here. I mean, who are we measuring him against, right? Is it the collegiate guys right now, or is it the past, or is it where he wants to go? And obviously, he wants to play professional football, right? And so, I think we have to kind of buffer that. I think he is terrific, though. I think his skill sets give him an advantage in every situation. All right, he has a significant enough arm to be able to make all the different throws. Okay, his legs are incredible. All right, and then his decision making has improved too as well. I can tell just from this year, his decision making, his ability to be able to read defenses and make key reads too as well. Reading the flat defender, the high low, and all that kind of stuff like that. He's done a terrific job of improving that, and so I believe that he's a great quarterback. Now, does he have a lot of stuff to learn? Yes. To play at the professional level, yes. There's a lot more details that are there, because guys in the pros, you do football all day long and they watch film all day long, and so they're gonna know exactly what you do every day. So I think he is a guy that we are in our higher upper echelon of FSU quarterbacks in history. All right, I think he's worked his way in that position.
Well, let me put it in this context. This is supposed to be the year of the quarterback in the ACC, and going into the season, Jordan Travis's name was way down that list, right? Yeah. Cunningham, you heard his name before. Jordan, DJU, Pittman, Tyler Van Dyke. The names go on and on, really. Is he an elite level quarterback this year in the ACC, one of the top 3 or 4, Mark?
Oh, yeah. Listen, there's so much more than just stats for quarterbacks, right? And I'm sorry if my internet's kind of unstable. I'm getting this message here. There's a lot more than just stats to playing quarterback. There's the leadership part of it, right? There's the, I heard my wife say this the other day, and I totally discounted it. Getting you in the right running game. So he's making run checks on the line of scrimmage and making those zone reads. I mean, those 2 touchdowns were zone reads. Those were zone runs that he pulled the ball and got it out because we were 3-by-1 set, and there was a one-on-one matchup out there with a guy playing off. I mean, that was great job by him, right? So there's so much more than just the stats. He's leading this team, and the way he leads this team by his example and his work ethic and how he's improved from where he first started. I was at that first BC game when he kind of emerged, and basically he was a running back playing quarterback, and the growth he's from that point to now is just tremendous. So he's got tremendous potential. Does he have elite arm talent? I don't know that he has elite talent, but you don't have to be an effective leader and an effective quarterback. He's got a good arm. He's got a better than average arm, and that's for us, he's perfect. So yes, he is a great quarterback. I wouldn't trade him for anybody in our league right now. For us.
Well, speaking of our league, FSU is 7-3, finishes the ACC portion of its schedule with a 5-3 record, which guarantees it a second place finish, at least a tie for second in the Atlantic Division. Currently ranked 20th in the nation in both the AP and football coaches poll. We'll find out about the college football playoff poll on Tuesday. But Mark and Kez, first of all, as former players, what does it mean to you for FSU to have its first winning season since 2016? And then what message has Mike Norvell and his program delivered to the rest of the ACC with its play in conference this year?
Well, I'll go. I believe that that momentum is the choice word of the moment. I think we have created a lot of momentum here. And I believe the other teams in the ACC are afraid because they're seeing, they remember, and they're seeing that momentum swing back in our direction too. I mean, all the resources that we have here in Florida right here, they're not gone yet. It just took a minute to be able to build a culture for those things to be able to be attracted to. Okay, and so now you can see that coaches is starting to do that. He's starting to build a culture that people want to get behind. Okay, you see the guys playing harder, and then you see people wanting to be a part of this program, right? The things that are going on here. So I'm buying some Florida State stock, baby. I'm buying some Florida State stock. If I'm anywhere in the ACC, I'm buying that stock because to me it looked like the momentum's there. There's an uptrend. All right, we get 7 wins, possibly 8 wins, possibly 9 wins, possibly 10 wins. All right, this coming into this year to be able to have a great season, and then the next year. All right, with these guys, these leaders that we've already created on this team, the momentum, the culture that we've already created. All right, I can't see us dropping back to where we were. I really just see because a lot of times what happens is you, as a player, the coaches don't necessarily coach the culture. After a certain point, the players reinforce that culture. And so I think we have enough guys that understand exactly what is needed at Florida State, the Florida State culture, that coaches embedded them into them, that that's the momentum we need to be able to move forward. So I think Florida State will be, if we fast forward to next year, I think Florida State will be 1 or 2 in our region, in our area to be able to finish out of the ACC. I just can't see any reason why we would not, have that.
Yeah, 100% with Kez. For the last 3 years, nobody was scared of that spear on the side of the helmet. Didn't mean much to anybody. And I mean, that's what did you ever lose an ACC game?
Man,
I don't think you did you?
Never.
94?
Nope. 28 no.
28 no.
28 no, Mark.
And so there was a lot of kick the dog while he's down going on, and I get that. That's fine, But I think what we're hopefully, what this run has shown is that this program still has a lot of potential. It's still Florida State, and now that all of a sudden that spear is starting to mean something again in the league, and people take note. Because look, again, as an alumni, as a former player and a former coach here, all I've ever wanted was for them to play hard and compete, right? Because for a couple of years here of late, we saw guys quit. We saw guys not compete. We saw guys all about the trappings about playing college football and not about the ball, right? They're about wearing the spear and wearing the uniform and going out and being on TV and all that kind of stuff, all the trappings, but it's not about that. It's about the ball. It's about winning. It's about competing. And if, if you're wearing that spear, you're a competitor and you're going to compete. You're going to give everything you got for that spear. And that's all I want. And that's what I'm starting to see. And moving forward, hopefully that's going to materialize in more success and more success and just build on that culture.
Hey, I've got an idea. When they do the story of the 2022 FSU football team, like they do the NFL-style films version of that stuff,
Right.
2022, putting the fear back in the spear, the story of Florida State.
Damn right.
So, there we go. All right.
30 for 30. I got to ask you guys this, too. I had a conversation with a buddy of mine who's an LSU fan, and his remark was, if LSU played Florida State right now, we would beat your behinds. This is what he said. So I'm posing this because I have a question I want to ask. And I said, you know what? I disagree with that, first off. Second off, you can't play revisionist history because then it had me thinking, look, if Florida State right now got to play NC State or Wake Forest again, I wonder, like we would beat NC State's behind at this point, in my opinion. With Morris at quarterback or not. I'm just saying. So, the question I have...
We should have beat him the first time.
We should have beat him the first time, and that still hurts. Now, is Florida State currently, in the ACC, the best current ACC team?
I don't think you can necessarily say that. I mean, North Carolina can put up a lot of points. Drake May is a great player. You know, that would definitely be a challenge. I think we put up a lot of points, too. So I don't think that's
they can't defend nobody, and you know that, Mark.
No, they can't. But you know, they got a great player at quarterback. You know, we just started talking about great players. I mean, a freshman to put up the numbers and have the performances he's having, and the poise that he has, and the arm that he has, that's pretty impressive. And being touted for a Heisman. So I mean, it's almost Jameis-like with him in terms of redshirt freshman being elite. So all I'm saying is that would be a good game. And still, Clemson still has a lot of great players, and I think if you said we played them 10 times, the way we're playing now, maybe we win 5 out of 10. Who knows? But it's hard to say. So are we the best team in the league playing the way we're playing right now? I'd say right now we're up there, But we had our chances. We had our chances with Wake. We had our chances with Clemson. We had our chance with NC State, and didn't pull it through for whatever reason. For what reason? So, and look, in LSU, same thing, right? They had their chance and they didn't do it. And I'm sorry about that, but we are SEC West champs, so that's the way it is.
I agree with you. I say this right here. This is the one thing too I say right here is Florida State has an identity. We have an identity. Okay, when you see Florida State on TV, guess what? You know what you're gonna get. You're gonna get some hard-nosed defense. And you're going to get us run that ball. You can get some plays on the outside, some deep bombs on the outside, and some short stuff. We have an identity, okay? And so when you have that, you have an opportunity to win every game. So I don't see a game that's not unwinnable for us. Even the Wake Forest game, they have a great scheme too as well and some great players. But I think we've gotten to the point now where we've developed an identity, okay? You know what you're going to get when you watch the game. When I watch the game and I see the first couple plays, when we bust out a good run, I say, they're in trouble now. They're in trouble. They're in trouble. When we run that counter, I say when they hit for about 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 22, I say, oh snap, they're in trouble. Because you know what they're gonna get. You know what the next progression of that is, and how they're gonna stop that. And then Florida State already has a plan for that right there. So you know what? I think we have a good game. And then defensively, our game has gotten tighter and tighter with the return of some of those guys and the maturity of some of those other players too. And then our fast linebackers. Nobody talks about our fast linebackers. Our linebackers are fast. Those guys are firefighters. All right. So I do.
I talk about it.
Yeah, I know. They are fast. They put out fires. But I you know what?
They play fast.
They do. It would be a great game to see us play North Carolina, because I don't think you're right. I don't think they can stop us, because most of those spread teams, they have a hard time stopping the run because they don't never practice against the run.
Right.
And so I think they would have a hard time stopping us, and then we would be able to hold the ball for a long period of time, and they wouldn't get it back, and then they would probably hit the panic button. Panic button. And so it would be a good game. But we're not there. We're not there, and so all we can do is do what's in front of you. And so, but I think
I'll take a state championship right now.
Yeah,
right?
me too.
That's the one I care about right now.
But that game, it has implications, right? In the future, and so I love it. I love it. So yes, I'm taking Florida State over every ACC team, even Clemson. Even Clemson, I think we could. I think we can have a chance.
Well, you said it, Kez. You think about you go back to the weight game and the plays when we had DBs in place against Atwell and those guys, and they were in place and didn't make the play. They're now making that play, right? And so if we were to play it again and they got in that same position, it looks like they'll make that play.
They'll make that play.
Yeah. Well, listen, you can definitely make the argument that they're the hottest team in the ACC, and I think it's safe to say they are one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the league at this point. Granted, you play Clemson, all the things that Mark and Kez said, but you mentioned that they had a chance to. They're the SEC West champions. That you mentioned state championship. They also have a chance to, I guess, for lack of a better term, play for the Louisiana state championship with a game next Saturday because they can go 2-0 against schools from the state of Louisiana.
I hope we make T-shirts.
Now, listen,
I hope we do. I really do hope we do.
We'll have more on the Louisiana Raging Cajuns later in the week. They are 5-5 on the year and 3-4 in the Sun Belt. But Mark and Kez, we talk about the continued climb, as Mike Norvell likes to call it. FSU does play a 5-5 Sun Belt team on Saturday, and will be a big favorite and should be able to. Should be a big favorite to secure its 8th win of the season. Does Mike Norvell have this team and his program to the point where this is just a matter of going out and taking care of business against a team from a lesser conference?
Look, even when we were great, and I'll let Kez in to this little secret here, okay? Even when you're great, you can't look past anybody. I mean, it was just last year we lost to Jacksonville State, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, of course, that totally different team, totally different situation. But, I remember some situations where we'd have a team like this and we're playing like either Miami or Florida next. And as a coaching staff, you are repping and throwing in reps for that game. At the same time, we wouldn't even look at film of the team until like Wednesday night, maybe, or even Thursday might be the first film. We just look at the practice. We draw it on the board and just practice against the looks. I don't know what Coach Easton did, Kez, but that's what we do for sure, right? And then I remember one time, one of the players, I think it might have been Charlie, walking in to the meeting room and looking at the board in the meeting room that had the schemes and the defenses drawn up, going, the way he said, that's not the defense we're playing this week. That's Miami's defense on the board that the coaches were scheming, right? So the players can't have that mindset, and the coaches can't let the players get into that mindset, but the coaches can, right? The coaches can. And rep those things to build up. I heard Mike say it last night on the ACC huddle. Every rep, everything what we're doing to this point is leading up to that game on Friday after Thanksgiving. I love that.
Yeah, I would just say too, it just great teams, they play against themselves, and I believe that this team here has an eye and mind for them to play to be the best they could possibly be. So I don't think they're going to take Louisiana lightly. They're not playing. They're playing to be the best that you can be. And then how does that happen? I keep hearing about process. And I go out to the practice. Sometimes I hear about the process of practicing hard and giving everything you got and making sure you're staying zoned in and making sure you're executing at a high level. And so when you talk about stuff like that, man, it's not even about the team you're playing. It's really about you minimizing the mistakes and you maximizing your effort, okay? And you preparing yourself to be the best possible player you can possibly be. Now, when you do that, guess what? You got something, right? And I hear my good friend Mickey Andrews. He's on my board, okay, with FCA. But when I talk to him, that's all he talks about, just that type of attitude. And I think we got it. I see the guys coming out consistent effort across the board, and that's when you got a program, not just a team, but a program. And that's where I think we are right now. So yes, okay, of course we see that. I think we smell Florida down the road right here. But you know what? Who's right in our vision right now is Louisiana. And so I think I think we're preparing ourselves to be the best we could possibly be. And Louisiana, just another step. And so I think I said maybe a week or two ago out there, I think this is season number 2. This is season number 2, and I think they're wanting to go 6-0 during season number 2. And so that's the goal. Because I remember, Mark, I remember being at home and watching the games on TV and watching you guys lost to with the LSU, and then you lost to Southern Miss, and I'm mad and everything. But then by the end of the season, we're the best team in the nation, and I'm going crazy in my house at the Miami game. It's the same thing here, man. Yep. Momentum.
Well, they got a lot of it. There's no doubt they have leveraged that momentum into a 20th ranking in the AP and coaches poll. Listen, guys, there was a lot of movement on Saturday. A lot of losses. NC State 16 lost, Tulane 17, Texas 18th, Illinois 21st. FSU does move up to 20, but could you make the argument, or would you make the argument with Kansas State, Notre Dame, UCF, UCLA, and Washington directly ahead of them? Could they be ranked in the top 15 or higher than 20, in your opinion, or should they be?
I don't know. You're trying to compare wins and losses and all that stuff. Honestly, I don't have a great amount of interest in all that stuff. I want to beat Florida. That's all I want to do.
Shocking.
And all that will take care of itself, what other people think. I just know if we beat Florida, I'll feel as good as I can possibly feel. Whether we're 20 or 15 won't make me feel near as good as if we beat Florida.
Yeah, well, listen, Kez, what are your thoughts on the ranking at 20, and where you think is that a fair ranking for Florida State through 10 games?
I don't know, man. Is it accurate? Is it accurate? Probably it may not be accurate, right? Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to judge and see how good a team is. Now, what they usually do is they try to legitimize all the different rankings without knowing the team intimately, right? And so it's a hard thing to do. And so I get it, right? I get it. The LSU game right here. It gave us a lot of emphasis, right? But then when you lose a couple games, guess what? It now takes the emphasis off that game right there. And so it's a hard deal to be able to put us in the position I think that we deserve, or where we're actually playing at. I think we're playing at a high level. I think we're playing at a top 15 level, possibly better than some of the other teams around us are playing. But can you legitimize that with this ranking? No, I don't think so, man. I think it's hard. I think people gotta, they're looking for the teams that are possibly in the mix for going to the playoffs and stuff like that. Now, I don't know if that's us right now. And so we shall see.
Really, right? Exactly. 1 through 4 are all that matter right now. Yeah. Anyways.
All right, we got a question, by the way, off of YouTube. It's for Kez, and it's from EMG4454, and it says K-Mac, and in parentheses it says my favorite Rooster Jones, and it ends parentheses, and it says, does the staff try to influence any juniors or redshirt juniors to stay with this roster with what they could have coming back next year, not just to have a better season and to reach their goals, but also get even better for the league?
Yeah, and I have a feeling they're referencing a couple guys like Fabian Lovett and Jordan Travis and Trey Benson, for that matter.
Yeah, I think so, man. I think so. Because that's the thing right here. When in that process, you got to be able to, it's risk versus reward. Okay, what's your upside? Okay, what are you trying to prove? You're gonna get information back from those guys to be able to. And then you competing with a whole bunch of other guys too as well. You got the juniors, you got the seniors, the people that are coming out, and so you won't necessarily know who you could possibly get back. So I think yes, recruit those guys like it's going out of style, because if you get picked in the later rounds and it's different than being picked in the earlier rounds. Earlier rounds, guess what? You got a couple years guarantee that you're gonna get some payments, and they got some investment in you. The later rounds, you don't have as much invested in you. You got to go and make a squad really. And so I think it would behoove those guys to really look at those different scenarios before they go make those decisions. So I hope that coach is going to talk to them. I hope that they're going to talk to that, the agent, and get accurate information about the league, because that thing is shifty. The league is shifty.
That's the key. That's the key. Who is in their ear, right? Yeah. That's the key. And are they trustworthy? Or just out to take advantage of a situation? Because look, with NIL changes everything.
Right, exactly.
If you're going to be a late round draft pick struggling to make the team or even the practice squad, how much are you going to make? $250,000, 250,000, 300,000. What? I don't know how much they make.
It's
Practice
a lot
squad
more than
guy?
I did. A lot more than I made.
Well, yeah. So whatever it is. So now, do you want to be an elite player in a program that has some NIL benefits to it? You'll make more money and get better and maybe elevate your draft prospect for the next year.
Hey,
So it's
Mark,
not so urgent. Yeah.
Mark, winning helps your draft status. Winning helps your draft status. And so if you in the mix if you in that playoff mix right here, if you're winning the ACC, if you are successful, you're winning games, guess what? You look better. You look better. And so some of those
Sure.
guys, I think they need to understand that if you are part of a great team, you look better, which raises your draft status.
Yep. Hey guys, we're going to ask. We know we got a hard out at 7:00 tonight. Listen, we have the affordability to be able to look past the Louisiana game. We've already seen what an impact a win can have over our rival. FSU goes down to Miami, beats Miami. Miami loses their quarterback commit for this recruiting class to Florida. You have Florida coming up in 2 weeks. Has a chance at a 9-win season if you take care of business against Louisiana. Mark, how big a statement in year 3 would beating Florida be and getting the 9 wins for Mike Norvell, and particularly with the early signing day on December 21st? Could you see a kid flip from Florida to Florida State with a win?
Yeah. For Mike to be able to go out and claim and say we're the state champs is huge. Because we're the only ones that can say that, because Florida doesn't play Miami, right? And of course, I know UCF people will be, well, where's UCF? I get it. All that being said, early signing day, most of the recruiting is done. Now are we in on kids that we're competing with these two schools deep into the process, or even if they have committed, have we continued to maintain contact with them? Then yes, of course it can have an impact, but to just go in cold on a kid that we haven't been recruiting real hard, who's maybe been committed to one of these two schools, and then all of a sudden think we're going to jump in and flip the guy, that I don't think that doesn't happen. There's got to be established, traction already with a kid for it to really impact it. Now, for the 2023 class, absolutely, absolutely, or 2024 class.
Yeah, junior recruiting, because that's going to be a lot of what that 3 weeks is about.
Absolutely, and that's where I think you'll see the benefit of that for sure.
Kez, you see college coaches come through your high school all the time when they're winning. How big? What does that do? How does it turn the heads of the kids that are being recruited by those schools?
Oh, it's big time, buddy. It's big time. It is quite the conversation to sit on the kid's couch or sit there at the field house and talk about your program when your program is winning and having success, or your program has just beat the other program's team. It is quite the conversation to have, and quite the involvement with the student athletes when that's happening. So that's big, because you can come in with your chest poked out. You can command the presence of the young men that are coming around you, because they watch those games too. They are aware of who's winning and who's not winning too as well, and they want to brag to their friends too about such and such coach that just whooped the Florida Gators, just came and visit me, Mike Norvell, and they want to brag about that too as well. So that means a lot. That is big time. Not this year, just like Mark said. Not this year. It's late. It's late in the game to try to build a relationship, because guys are not going to switch like that. All the deal's done for the most part, and even those guys making the decision, a lot of those guys have already made those decisions. And unless we just went out there and embarrass University of Florida with somebody switched and made, now that can happen now. I wouldn't be mad at Florida State for putting about 50 on UF and then and embarrass
Nobody
the stadium.
Not to put any pressure on, but I kind of expect it.
Yeah. I wouldn't be mad at them, but it's late in the game for this. But next year, the years after next, getting a foot in the door with those guys, that's what we're doing now, is building a future relationship and future marketing opportunities for those elite athletes all across Florida and South Georgia and all the different areas. Everybody's going to watch this game. Everybody's going to watch this game, right, across the nation. And they're going to care who wins this game, because This is one of the elite rivalries across the world. Across the world.
Worldwide. The worldwide leader in sports.
That's it.
Yeah, well,
The
hey,
thrill
listen,
of victory.
and it's a Friday night game, so the whole college football world is going to be watching because there is no other game that night. Well, hey guys, thank y'all for joining us, and appreciate it as always, and hope to have you both of you back next week for the Louisiana review and even better, the Florida preview.
Can't wait. All right, well,
That's what I'm
look,
looking for. All
you
right.
can catch us on Apple Pods, you can catch us on Spotify, and of course, this will be available on YouTube for replay. A lot coming up this week. Make sure you check us out at theosceola.com, all of our other great podcasts. Again, thanks to Alumni Hall, our great sponsors, and appreciate you guys listening. Kez, you're the man. Mark, you are also the man. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you soon. And you've been watching Seminole
Scalp 'em.
Sidelines, and those of you listening on our pod, we can't wait to get it to you out here in a couple of hours soon.
Hey, Seminole fans. Tickets to Florida State football games are now on sale. Right now, you can pick up single game tickets, 3-game packs, and season tickets for the 2022 season. Home games include Florida, Clemson, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, Boston College, Louisiana, and Duquesne. Have fun this football season with your friends and family, all the while knowing your ticket purchase is funding FSU's success. Call your ticket rep today at 850-644-1830 or visit Seminoles.com. That's Seminoles.com.